It's playing.
No, it didn't turn the audio on. That's all right. I got it now.
But it must be evident to all of you, you must all know half a dozen people at least, who are no use in this world, who are more trouble than they are worth. And I think it would be a good thing to make everybody come before a properly appointed board, just as he might come before the income tax commissioners, and say every 5 years or every 7 years, just put him there and say, sir or madam, now will you be kind enough to justify your existence? If you can't justify your existence, if you're not pulling your weight in the social boat, if you're not producing as much as you consume, or perhaps a little more, then clearly we cannot use the big organization of our society for the purpose of keeping you alive, because your life does not benefit us, and it can't be of very much use.
Good morning, everyone. You were just watching a clip from the man known as George Bernard Shaw. He was kind of crazy back in the day. What you saw there was what we're seeing today. If you're talking about a man who is suggesting that there are certain people that just don't belong on the earth and we ought to come before a tribunal every 5 to 7 years, and, you know, kind of like the Income Tax Bureau of his day. That's what he says. And justify your existence. That's what's happening right now in the world. They're asking, and this is what's coming about, folks. And I think we talk about the mark of the beast and all that stuff with the chips, and, you get this number and this and that. That right there. You better consider how you think. You better consider what you agree with, because this is what they are doing in the world today. Agreed?
Yeah. The purists, and by that I mean those who hold right down to the letter, like the number 666, okay, stamped in your forehead or in your right hand. Well, is a chip 666?
Right, Dad.
I've said it, I don't know how many times I've said it. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with what we agree with, what we don't agree with. It has to do with the assent of our mind,
Yep.
What we give ourselves to. Because what you give yourself to, you are. That's what you are, that's what you become. As a man thinks in his heart, in his mind, so is he. So if we think in that terms and if we agree with it, then that's where we are.
And if we are not convinced that Jehovah is the creator and he created us in his image and likeness, and we're not being marked, set apart, and put in, with his name in our forehead, agreement in the right hand of blessing, then we're lost. That's right. As simple as it gets.
Exactly.
See, you have to look at the other side of it too.
Yes.
We only look at one side, and I think it's tragic. We ought to focus on the one side that says, I know who my Father is, and as Paul said, I press towards the mark of the high calling of God which is found in Christ Jesus. These are the things that we need to really think about and consider. Yep. Instead of being so worried about this mark of the beast, it blows me away. Blows me away. And when we talk about this type of thing, so you have, here's Bernard Shaw talking about these things. One of the things that I think is very interesting, and Justin, thanks for getting that up and playing, buddy. One of the things I think that's very difficult for us is understanding where this comes from. Today, Justin and I were talking before the segment here, and we're talking about the construct of what we see in the earth today. We're continually trying to put, on the one side, on the Christian side, we're desperate to put Donald Trump back into power because that's God's ordained or anointed. And you can say this is what they say about the man. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many big evangelists and people prophesying that Donald Trump was going to be president. He was going to win the 2020 election.
That he was the anointed of the Lord.
When are we going to stop There is only one who was anointed king, and that was Jesus that I'm aware of, right? Is he not the king? There is only one kingdom, and it's not of this world. These are facts. If we are to believe in what Jesus came to set in place by the will of his Father, or of the will that had already been determined from the beginning.
Yep.
So we have to look at a couple of things here, and today I want to look at this because, as we're talking, we're in day 2,110,846 of our crisis of identity, and our identity is so scattered and splintered, we don't even know who we are.
Nope.
And that's a fact, and that's prevalent in every corner of the world. But in the ancient world, rulers declared themselves divine. We use the word divine, which means I'm a god. I've always thought, why was this normal? As far as the rulers of antiquity, why did they do that? What was the thought process behind this? And we say these things all the time. We talk about them. I don't even know if what people know about this or don't know about these things. But today, we've cultivated in Western civilization the idea that the nations were created or ordained by God. And the U.S. being that leading candidate, we talk, this is ordained, God did this. It's been a normal mode of governance from the very beginning. This is our thought process. And how do we understand what government is doing and why in Western culture we're suffering from what we've created? And that's the truth of it, Dad.
Yep.
We're suffering from what we've created in Western civilization. Look at Western civilization. It's not fun.
Nope. It isn't.
And I'm not just talking about the U.S.
Oh, no. Well, if you were paying attention to the news this morning, Trudeau, the Prime Minister in Canada, just threatened to invoke military means to stop the trucker strike and to all of that. He declared the Emergency Act,
Martial law, basically.
martial law, and in his statement, we're going to do this because you don't have a right to do that. So, yeah, where are we?
He did that yesterday.
Yeah. But it was all over the news this morning.
Yeah. I'm just saying he did that yesterday.
Yeah.
He invoked that, which means he can seize the funds of everybody in those truckers. Everybody that was there, he can seize their funds. He can take them to jail and no due process, nothing.
Right.
It's martial law.
Yeah. And in, Canada, they don't have a constitution, but they have something similar to it. I forget exactly what they call it now. But in that, there is the right to protest, the right to peacefully assembly and protest.
Right.
What's been unpeaceful about the trucker strike? Ain't nobody getting hurt. Nobody's tearing nothing down. Nobody's burning buildings. Nobody's killing anybody. Unlike the protests we saw here in America that the police didn't do anything about, the governments didn't do anything about, nobody did anything about it. And they killed, they burned buildings, they burned businesses. They're still doing it, in a sense. My brother-in-law was just here visiting over my wife and I's anniversary, and we drove by a Walgreens store, and he said, Walgreens, he said, well, they closed the one out by us. I said, yeah, well, Walgreens made an announcement that they were going to close stores in California and other places because they could no longer keep up with the loss. Because
Right.
people just load up shopping carts, they load up shopping bags and just walk out the door and nobody says a word to them. Nobody says a word. What law? What law? I mean, you can steal with impunity, and they're closing stores.
Government, right? Dad, we've talked about this. The word government is a very modern word.
It is.
We're going to look at the etymology of the word government here because I want to show you something. And we have to, I think it's important. Actually, it's vital. We've talked about this, and we're going to keep saying it because it's true. It's very important that we understand where things came from, their origins, so we understand, we can discern what is right and wrong. Good and evil has already been determined, but we have to discern the right, what is righteous, that comes from Jehovah, the tree of life, and what is not righteous and comes from the knowledge of good and evil. This is the key to these things. And we talk about governments, and we've had governments in the earth for a long time.
Forever.
Right?
Yeah.
I believe there is a government from Jehovah. He has a government, if we want to use that term. We call it a kingdom, and we're going to get to these things. Okay? But there's only one real kingdom. The word government, and we look at I'm looking just right here, and all the links, Justin, are posted in our post description, right? So you can see these. You can go for yourself. Go look. We put them there for you. I'm reading to you what I'm putting there so you know. Government, late 14th century, act of governing or ruling. System by which a thing is governed. From French, control, direction, administration. And from the modern French, governor, to steer, be at the helm of, govern, rule, command, direct. From Latin, it is to direct, rule, guide, govern, originally to steer, to pilot. And then we go to the word govern. And everybody, if you used to drive the old U-Haul trucks, they had the governors on them that they wouldn't let you go over 55.
Right.
You hit that 55, boy, you just kick your foot off the gas pedal.
Yeah. They stop you.
That's government. They're going to stop you. Govern is a verb from the late 13th century, to rule with authority. And there is the key. And then it goes back to govern, to steer, be at the helm, govern, rule, direct. But see, this is the key to this. And this is my point, and this is what is at the crux of it. Authority. This is the one thing that people don't grasp. We go about our day and we say, well, the government there, we got to trust our institutions. I heard Trudeau say that in his speech, when he's talking about setting martial law. We got to reinstitute trust in our institutions.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. We're going to reinstitute it, all right.
Trust in the institution? My gosh, man. What institution?
Well, you hear our Constitution bandied about all the time, the different amendments. There's one thing they never talk about. There's one thing they don't mention, is the first part of it. It's a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. I don't remember the last time I saw that enacted. Because most of America's against all this mess, and they're still pushing it. So is it a government by the people or for the people?
Majority?
Yeah.
Right? We say democracy. The majority of these people don't believe in this mess.
Right. They don't agree with it. And so since when is the government now for us or by us or...
And here's the thing. People go, well, Democrats, they voted. Most of the Democrats don't believe in this either.
No. A lot of them don't.
No.
So,
but this is
who's
again,
kidding who?
Yeah, kingdoms of men. I'm going to show you something, and this goes to the key: authority. What's at the root of this word authority? And we'll talk a little bit more about this tomorrow. But I want to show you something. We're going to go back in history. How do we establish authority in anything? Because the word authority is a factor that says we have authorship. How do you have authority? What is authority? What does it mean? Most people don't even really know. But if I'm the author, the Lord said, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. The author and finisher of our faith. These are words that are very strong in this. So when we have authority, and this is what exousia, we talked about this not too, right?
Right.
The right, authorship. We have authority because we've been given the right to be what we've been given.
Yes.
And we must be, our expectation is to be accountable to that.
Yes. Yeah. If you see if I can explain what I'm thinking. If you give rights to people,
Yeah.
okay, then there is an obligation on their part as well.
Right.
Not to be ruled over, but simply to agree, okay, you gave me these rights, then I will abide by them, and I will be satisfied with them, and I will do them.
Yes.
This is what the Lord did. He gave
Amen,
us
Dad.
the Gospels. He gave us the right way to live. He taught us righteousness, but then He expects us to be accountable to it. You have to be accountable to what you've been given. How many of you have ever given a gift to somebody that was not appreciated? And you go home and you sit down with your wife or your husband or your family and you say, wow, I don't know if I want to ever give them anything again because, I mean, the gift was just cast aside.
You're at a party 6 months later and they're re-gifting it to somebody
Right, yeah, they're giving it
else.
to somebody else,
That became a big thing.
Oh, it did. And so, if you have to appreciate what you've been given. And then the people that give it have to appreciate the rights of the people. In other words, you can't turn around then and lord it over them and be an authoritarian and you're going to do what I tell you no matter what. No, you can't do that. So both sides have to agree
Right.
on this.
Oh, what a shocking development that is.
That's why I said government of the people, by the people, and for
Well,
the
but
people.
let's go back to this, even more so than that. And governments of men and stuff, I'm talking about like-mindedness and the mark. Where is our mark?
understand.
No, I know you do. But that's the point of this. And we want to keep this framework because it's easy to start looking at, then we go, well, the Constitution, God did not write the Constitution. The right to bear arms and the right of the free press and all that stuff, that's stuff set by men so we wouldn't be overrun by somebody who wants to rule over us and not allow us to live according to the truth, which is what's happening right now. I'm appreciative of the country that I live in. It's unique in man, but that's the problem. It wasn't ordained by God. You can say what you want to. There is only one kingdom ordained, one, and it belongs to and it's not of this world, folks. We have to come to this understanding, and I'll show you. This is the ancient thought process. We're talking about Mesopotamia here. We go back, this is some of the very first kingdoms. The first Mesopotamian ruler who declared himself divine was Naram-Sin of Akkad. Naram-Sin reigned sometime during the 23rd century BCE, but the exact dates and duration of his reign are still subject to research. According to his own inscription, the people of the city Akkad wished him to be the god of their city. Kind of sounds like Nimrod.
Mm-hmm.
This first instance of self-deification also coincides with the first world empire of the rulers of Akkad, the first time that a dynasty established a territorial ruler over large parts of Mesopotamia. It was also accompanied by certain changes in religion in which the king proliferated the cult of Ishtar, the goddess of war and love. Naram-Sin seems to have emphasized Ishtar in her warlike aspect and began to refer to himself as the husband warrior of Ishtar. Now, what I just read to you, we also have the link to that. If you want to go read this, you can. It's an article from Religion and Power. It's from the University of Chicago. Okay, you can go check that out.
Doesn't that sound like a contradiction in terms of goddess of war and love?
I don't know, man. But here's the thing, and this is why I want to go back to authority here, Dad. when we look at the word kingdom used in biblical terms, we're just going to put it in the New Testament, okay? It's I'm using Strong's Concordance. These references should be there. We have those in there? Good. It's reference G932, basilia, royalty, concretely a realm, which is from the next Greek word, reference G935, basilius, sovereign. And it's from the root word, reference G939, basis, to walk, a pace or base. And it says abstractly a foot. It's the foundation, the basis. Where does man have the authority to raise up kingdoms in the earth? When was he given that authority? He usurped that authority. He said, I am the author of my own, I am the master of my own destiny. I am the author of my own existence. This is the word authority. This is how you see what's happening. When a man stands up and says, they say, be our God. That means he's defining existence. This is what authority truly means. You are at authorship of existence. And if you really understand this at this level, then you understand what's going on in the world and what's been going on. The knowledge of good and evil and what Dad and I have been discussing for some time now is at the root of this. We will take authority to determine our own existence. Comes very simple, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's at the basis of all of it. Man believes that he can live independently from Jehovah.
Yes.
And it comes down to the point they don't even believe in him. But it's always been curious to me, the strongest atheists and disbelievers constantly fight against Jehovah. They fight against faith. They fight against truth in that sense. And if you don't believe something exists, how can you fight it? It's like right now, if Russia didn't exist, why would the Ukraine be afraid?
Right.
You know, I mean, just believe they don't exist and you're okay. You're okay. Just believe they don't exist. Ignore the troops sitting on the border, ignore all the equipment there, ignore all the everything, and just believe they don't exist, you'll be okay. So just believing something doesn't exist doesn't do anything. It doesn't do nothing.
Right.
So
and this comes back to, so when you're talking about what we see with governance, what we see with down through history, what sets a man up to say he's a god? How does a man do that? Because it sets in place what the idea of those things brought into the world itself. Then you understand the rebellion. Mm-hmm. This was the transgression that set man on the course of missing the mark. We understand then the mark of the beast. We understand the mark of Jehovah, the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast is simply that which came from the knowledge of good and evil. Mm-hmm. That set man on his own course to determine his own existence. Yeah. That is the mark by which you have in your hand of agreement or the assent of your mind.
Right, exactly.
We need to be very aware of what's going on in our culture today. People say, well, Brian, do you I think Paul said it best. If I'm right before Jehovah, then there's no reason for me to break the laws of men.
Right. Yeah. You know, Jesus said it very simply. And we don't think of the scripture in that way, but it fits exactly what we're talking about. Man's will to determine his own way in the world. Mm-hmm. Jesus one day was talking and he said, by taking thought or by thinking, can you add 1 inch to your stature?
Oh, wow.
Can you change your hair from white to black? You know, now, yeah, you can put dye on it and you can wear lift shoes, But you're not changing nothing. You can't, by thinking, change your hair color. You can't, by thinking, grow an inch. So why do we think that our mental powers can save us?
Our knowledge, Dad.
Our knowledge can save us. We don't know enough. What
And
we
that's-
know is very little.
And that's what they're trying to do today, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. They worship knowledge.
Yes.
Follow this, follow that. They worship knowledge. And
Follow the science.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with knowledge. There's nothing
No.
wrong with knowing something, but we don't have enough of it. And
Well, but
and we're not going to have as long as we stay in this shape.
We have to recognize where the knowledge comes from and how it's used in the construct in which it's been given.
Yes, exactly. And so we're at this. It's finally coming down in the world to this war against good and evil, and good and evil against Jehovah. They're deciding now what is good and what is evil. They're going to tell you what's right and what's wrong, not the Lord, not Jehovah. They're going to decide it because they know. And yet none of them keep to it.
No.
We know that. We've seen all the films and the pictures.
Ad nauseum.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just like, all right, I heard it. Thanks,
Yeah,
bye.
Yeah. I mean, even at the Super Bowl, they were showing all these stars and stuff with no masks on. They weren't eating or drinking. But if you look, when they panned the audience, they weren't wearing them either. And there was a mandate in
LA.
place. Yeah, in L.A. There's a mandate in place indoors. You have to wear them. And I didn't see hardly anybody wearing a mask.
Well, okay, and see, this is the coming back to finish this up, folks. When we talk about government, we talk about these men in ancient history, and I know I'm just giving you little pieces here because we're time wise.
Yeah.
Go look for yourself. Where does this
about it
idea?
yourself.
Yeah, where does this ideas come from? And this is the thought process. You can be as God, knowing good and evil. See, this is the thought process here. So we set somebody up that has this knowledge, and we follow this person rather than following Jehovah. Well, Jesus came and he said, "Look, follow me as I follow Christ." This is what Paul said: "Follow me as I follow Christ," because Jesus is the exact express image and likeness of Jehovah, which is what man was created to be. This is the thought process. This is what we do. If we're going to follow the governments of men, then we have to give them the authority to do so.
Absolutely.
They have to take, and where do they get their authority? This is where they still say, in this country, we were ordained by God. Well, what's different than the divine right of kings, who said, we got ours? And who's different anywhere? So now what you have and what you see in the culture today in government, especially around what's happening with the Great Reset, what's happening in Europe, what's happening in Western civilization, is we've given ourselves over to what this men like what George Bernard Shaw said. We're determining existence, and we're determining if your life is worth being here on the earth.
Right.
This is what the evolutionary thought process brought into motion. This is what mankind has determined. It has taken any notion of a creator out of the conversation. And this is what we're going to talk about tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because it's the next thought process.
And you know what you said a moment ago, just to add this in.
Yeah, I did.
We're not here trying to explain everything, that we understand. What we're trying to do is get you to think. Mm-hmm. We're trying to give you tidbits of information. Go look for yourself. I've always said that. Don't just take what I say. Go look for yourself and study. Show yourself approved.
Amen. Test it.
Test it. So that's what we're trying to do. We give you these things so that it can stir your mind, so you will start thinking and you'll go look for yourself, and you can be assured of your faith. You can be you can be convinced in your own faith. So that's what we do. That's what it's about.
Amen, man. It has to be about that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And he's not talking, I can tell you from experience, this is what he has said to me my whole life. So, I mean, this isn't something new.
No,
This is what it is. So we appreciate you being with us, and we hope that we have stimulated your mind, that you're going to go look. There's some, and if you're looking for more information or other links or references and things of that nature, please shoot us an email. You can contact us through our website, rafministries.org, thefaithloop.org. Go to our contact page. We want to help. We do. We have some information there. You can go watch more stuff, learn more, read the blogs. There's plenty of information there. Go and look. We appreciate you being with us. We love you. We care about your life. Have a great day in the Lord, and always remember to give love
and give life.
and give Jesus.